in the middle of the time where we're supposed to feel safe and secure. Okay? Hippocampus, that's right where the amygdala is going to sit. So right in the center of that brain, it's going to hold the amygdala. That's in charge of memory, the context of what's going on. So this is why I'll have some folks say, Nicole, my family members tell me of a situation that happened, but I don't remember it. Your brain was protecting you. Because your brain and your body, your nervous system, in that moment felt that you were so unsafe that, you know what, we're going to harness these memories so that you do not remember. Again, this is the part of the work I do. I help get folks to feel so safe and secure that if those memories come up, and it can, it's called flooding, where the brain and body will start to feel so safe that it will unlock some emotions and some memories. But by the time that happens, you've learned so many cool skills because you have taught your brain, I am safe and secure, so you can work through that, and it's not going to impact you. So trauma can create a high alert patterns, even when no danger exists, like our friend when we were talking about going into work, okay? So it's not about what necessarily happened in reliving that trauma. It's what does the body remember, okay? The other thing I want you to remember, and I don't have it up here, but I think you deserve to know, when that cortisol is produced, that brain is connected to our brainstem. The brainstem we call the powerhouse. It's in charge of our, making sure our heart is beating. We don't have to focus on that. And make sure we're breathing. We don't have to focus on that. That brainstem is connected to what's called the vagus nervous system that shoots out through the rest of my body. This is exactly why, if you don't feel safe, adrenaline's produced. Maybe your hands sweat, your feet sweat, your hands sweat. You feel like you want to vomit. It's all connected. It's all connected. Next slide. Generational and relational impact. Trauma, like I mentioned, can respond. We see it across generations. Family habits, it's called, what we call, it's called family orientation. So everything my dad had learned and had gained from his family experience, all of that trauma combined with my mom's, they create their own family orientation that is passed down to us. But we have the power, friends, to make it end with us. And that's one of the hardest things. It's to say, no, I'm not going to be reactive. No, we're going to do things differently. There is power in that. And to be honest, what I'm seeing right now is generations across the board saying, I'm going to do things differently. That is not a bad thing. I think right now we're in a space of healing. That's why we're seeing so much tension across the United States, so much contention, okay? Because we have a lot of folks who are finally recognizing a possibility of healing and saying, no, we're not going back. We're going forward. We're going to do better. Being aware helps us break these cycles. Generational trauma. When I was in church, we called them generational curses. When we're aware, we break those. Okay. Next slide. So these trauma responses are going to happen in daily life, all right? We've already gone over this. This can be minor stressors, minor triggers, snapping at family members real quickly. Growing up, my mom, starting at the age of 8 years old, had to start taking care of all of her siblings. If not, she would get a beating. Cooking dinner, cleaning household for 7 other people. She learned that because her mother had to, because her father was a Polish farmer, and everyone had to work throughout the Depression. It ended with my mom, but some of the stuff still trickled in. And she even recognizes now, after going through her own work and own therapy, hey Nick, I'm sorry I yelled so much. I'm not going to be mad at her forever. I've had to do my own work on that. But I recognize my urge to yell at my daughter. It stops with me because I know that that's a trauma response, a generational one I'm breaking. Avoidance, avoiding difficult conversations, tasks, so we don't feel safe. One of my firm beliefs in life is that true privilege is being able to grow up in a home with regulated caregivers. The majority of us did not have that. That's a gift. That's a gift we can give the next generation. Emotional numbness, being overwhelmed, physical reactions. Cognitive effects, that means the difficulty concentrating, right? We talked about these things. We know this. Remember, it is how your body's responding. Next slide. So why it matters. My friend here already alluded to it. If we do not put the work in now, things like epigenetics can trigger. Our body can start shutting down and shutting out. This is why, scientifically, friends, we know later in life some folks are getting all of these wild and crazy diagnoses and diseases, even if they have been the healthiest their entire life, because they never took the time to heal what happened to them. So if there is one thing you can take away from this today, it is that if you take the time to soothe your nervous system, you can be saving yourself a lot in medical debt. Yes, sir?
Quick question concerning, I don't have the mic, so. Concerning our comrades in arms, has the church done enough to have veterans who have experienced all kinds of trauma? And if you don't know, a lot of times men will try to call it man up and endure. What has the church done, or what should the church be doing to help combat individuals who have gone through a whole lot of stress? And we know medication, self-medication, all kinds of things have resulted as far as trying to deal with PTSD, stress, trauma, that kind of thing. And in our church, we do have some veterans who were in Vietnam, and so they are still going through, I'm quite sure.
That's a good question. So I'm a daughter of a Marine. I was born at Parris Island, South Carolina, where Marines are made. My dad spent 21 years. We moved 19 times as a family.
Wow.
My youngest brother right now is an officer in the United States Marine Corps down in Beaufort, South Carolina. My other brother just retired out of the Navy.
He did the right, no, I'm gonna leave that alone.
I know, right? We were all confused because we're conditioned. Okay? We recognize that now, but he did do one tour.
Wow.
I'm gonna share a story with you. It's a personal one. One that I'm honestly still processing myself. When I was growing up and my dad's PTSD was at its worst, there'd be days we would get home and he's wandering in the backyard, not knowing where he is because he's thinking he's somewhere else. Physically in combat. Yes, he had access to the VA, but the most important thing is access to care. And unfortunately in the United States, and I'm gonna go on a little tangent right now, the way that our system is set up for mental health, medical issues, it is all based on insurance.
Yeah.
There are higher powers that be making decisions for people who need help and need care, who've never had to seek this themselves. I say this because, again, I educate you. I educate my clients too, because having this knowledge is empowering, especially for the days where we get to show up at a polling station. The best thing a church can do is help folks get access to care. I'll never forget when my mom tried to do this with a really large church up in Mass. We were a part of it, we were a community. I was working towards ordination. I actually moved back home from overseas so I can help my mom be a caregiver. Because at the end of the day, right, we can throw all the therapy in the world at somebody, but if they don't recognize that there's an issue, if they don't want help, they're not going to get help. So building relationships is incredibly important. Letting people know that you're there is important, but helping that access to care. And after one really violent night, my mom went to the pastoral counselor. We had a pastor that was in charge of counseling and family services, because she wanted help just processing what was going on. And that pastor looked at her and said, what he's doing, binge drinking, being violent in the household with your children, that is none of your business. He's the head of your household and you let him do what he needs to do.
Wow. That's crazy.
That moment changed my life. That was one of the moments I really truly believe that helped lead me to being a therapist, so that people don't get messages like that. So if there's one thing, right, when we talk about the church, we're collectively talking about many denominations and larger spaces, but if we're talking about a singular church, there's a lot of good churches out there doing some cool things. But the best thing I think a group can do is to listen, not judge, and help access to care. A lot of the work I do, friends, a lot of my sessions when I'm sitting with people is helping them navigate referrals, because at the end of the day, we are living in a system, right? I'm going through it with my husband and my daughter right now. You go to your primary care doctor expecting some treatment or care, and you leave with 7 referrals instead.
Yeah.
And a wait list that is absolutely insane. You push back. In the state of Connecticut, I'm going to say it is a privilege living here. People are always, and it's expensive to live here, but there's a reason why. For example, one of the things that we have is called an insurance state commissioner. So if you Google Connecticut insurance state commissioner, there is an entire platform where if you are having trouble getting access to care, if your insurance is denying something, we have somebody in the state of Connecticut and in our government that will help navigate that for you. Lean on the services that we have. Partner with local agencies. And by partner, I mean, hey, what does your intake process look like? What are some programs that you have available? These are honestly changing quarterly because of the way that government funding is run. The fiscal year for the government starts July 1st. So if you're ever wanting to know what new things are happening, contact them, contact a caseworker, contact a director. They're all listed on their websites. But community and access to care, I think, are the best thing. Those are things I wish my mom had. We had falsified community in the sense of safety. What I will say is, if I were to redirect and look at where her story wound out, is that she was able to get access through the pastor's assistant to a local therapist who was able to help her heal. But I think her healing could have began so much sooner. If she was in that room and that man heard her and said, you know what? That's not okay. That's not okay. Because what ended up happening weeks after that was me and my siblings being bounced around from home to home, just trying to find a safe place to sleep. So creating community, friends, building those relationships, that is the best thing you can do. And also, too, contact the VA in Newington and West Haven. They always have stuff going on. I'm even trying to do it for low energy neurofeedback, right? So I shared I'm a certified practitioner. You want to know something crazy? It is the only system, not only FDA approved, but approved by the VA to help regulate the nervous system and treat PTSD. But how many providers are there in the state of Connecticut through the VA? 0. Contact your congressman and woman. If you can't get that access, contact the VA themselves. I'm sorry, I'm all about making noise when we need help. We got to advocate and fight for ourselves if nobody else will. And that's a large part of the care that I teach folks to do. Advocating for yourself in this political, medical industry is the best thing that you can do. And sometimes people just need help with that. Because when you don't feel safe, remember, your brain shuts down. You can't think and process. Someone just sometimes needs help dialing a phone number, okay? That's all.
Thank you.
So the best thing that we can do is to regulate that nervous system. So I want you to start thinking of different ways that you can soothe your nervous system. A friend of mine who's a psychologist, she calls this micro-regulating. So you can, like, for example, when I walk out of my office, I immediately change my clothes because I want the energy and everything that I've been dealing with throughout the day to be left behind. I don't want to take that to my daughter. I don't want to take that to my husband. I want to be fully present. I always have water with me in case I need to gargle. Here's another good one for you, especially at the holidays. Believe it or not, so the smell of peppermint can naturally, in a very, very low way, we're not talking about medicinal stuff here, if you smell peppermint, it can help reduce some of that cortisol being produced in your brain. So I actually have always had a peppermint stick in my purse with essential oil, just to smell if I'm feeling a little on edge. Those Lifesaver candies, they make the green ones, the spearmint ones. Have some of those in your purse or in your car. Pop it into your mouth when you're feeling dysregulated. Again, it's not going to be like you're taking an immediate Ativan, right? Because that's some hefty stuff. But you can at least start conditioning your body to, ooh, I'm safe and I'm secure. You can reduce those cortisol levels naturally. Think about different ways that you can micro-regulate. All right, friends. This is our call to action. This is something I want you to practice when you get at home. Next slide, please. I'm going to teach you a variation of progressive muscle relaxation. This is great for children, teens, adults. I don't know how many people are going to be here today. I have some stress balls. You don't have a stress ball, you can use your fist, you can use a sweater, you can use a pillow. Sometimes I have stolen some of my daughter's stuffies, and that's one of those fun. When I work with kids, I call this squeezing lemons, because it's easier for them to remember than progressive muscle relaxation. I call it PMR for short, but essentially what we are doing is we are going to tense a group of muscles, we're going to release, and then we're going to notice the sensation. We can do this in different various ways. I'm going to teach you one of the ways, so this way you have something to use when you go home, okay? The key to this is you want to practice when you're feeling regulated, okay? The time to soothe your nervous system is not when the sky is falling, when you feel the absolute worst. The time to soothe your nervous system is to practice when things are okay. So try it at least once a day, whether it's when you first wake up or when you go to sleep. So the way this works, I'm going to model it for you. We're going to start with our right hand. You're going to squeeze that stress ball so hard it's actually uncomfortable, it hurts. I'm shaking, all right?
Yeah.
We can let go. When I say go, we're going to squeeze and hold for 10 seconds. I'm going to count out loud, but when you're doing this by yourself at home, I want you to count in your head and maybe envision those numbers on your forehead. Or just think of the numbers. While we're doing this, I also need you to breathe. One, because I do not need anyone passing out today. We don't want to deal with that.
No.
But two, when you control your breath and you breathe with purpose, we take over that powerhouse, that brainstem. When we squeeze, we are creating blood flow. When we breathe, we're getting fresh oxygen up into our brain and through our bloodstream. So any cortisol that has been released, so you need to know what triggered you to produce cortisol, but we can naturally start steeping that out. I think it is a steeping tea. I am just steeping out that cortisol, okay? And by thinking of those numbers, we're cognitively redirecting. So again, I don't need to know what happened. We're just soothing the nervous system. So the way this works, right? We're going to squeeze and hold for 10 seconds. We're not going to release. I'm going to count out loud for you today. After our right hand, we're going to switch over to our left hand. After our left hand, we're going to push and squeeze, okay? That's going to impact the back of our neck, our shoulders, and the back of our biceps. So we're going to do this together. Ready? Squeeze. 1, 2, 3, breathe. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Release. What does it feel like? I want you to think and process, what does your hand feel like? If you don't feel anything, you need to squeeze harder. Usually it feels like you feel a little loose like spaghetti. Have some tingling sensations. That means you did it right. Okay. We're going to do our left hand together, friends. We're not done. Ready, go. 1, squeeze. 2, 3, 4, breathe. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Again, this might not be comfortable for you. That's fine. Now we're going to push, all right? Go. 1, 2, push 3, 4, 5, 6, breathe 7, 8, 9, 10. You just did your first series of progressive muscle relaxation. Now sometimes, right, if I'm at a 10 out of 10, I need to do that more than once, maybe 5 times, okay? Do we have a question? No, we're good? Okay, just making sure. Yes, ma'am. What? You want to do it again? All right, we're going to do it again. You ready? Right hand, follow my voice. 1, go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, breathe, 9, 10. For those of you who want to join, right, left hand. Doing the full series, go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Keep breathing. All right, we're gonna do it. Ready, we're gonna push, go. 1, 2, 3, 4, breathe, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. For those of you who are students, athletes, this is a great one to do before an athletic game. Professional athletes will actually do a variation progressive muscle relaxation before things like the World Series, the Super Bowl, because they want to harness that adrenaline for the game that they have to play. If you are a student, you have to take a test. Do this before you go in, before you go into school. But when you sit down on your desk, I'm going to use the stairs for this, okay? You're going to take your right leg, and you're going to push down for 10 seconds. It's uncomfortable. You're going to feel it all in your quad, a bit in your butt, your back. Then you're going to do your left leg, and then you're going to do both legs together. This one's the most uncomfortable. It feels like you want to stand up, but you're not going to, okay? That's another variation if you wanted to get the lower half of your body. So if you're finding you're very reactive, you need more help. But again, a good thing to do before you go into that classroom, before you take a big test, because you are now going to reduce that cortisol production so that all the material you have been working so hard to study does not go away. Right? Again, try it at least once a day. One of the most important things, next slide please, is when you're doing this, take inventory of where you are before and then where you are after, okay? Just so you can gauge how often you need to do it. Another one you can do is if you get in like a push-up position against the wall, angle your body a little bit, and you can push your right arm, then push your left arm, then push both together. That's going to do more of your torso. So again, 3 different ways you can use this skill practically. Teach your friends, teach your family. The best thing you can do if you're a parent is teach your child, and then you guys can do it together. That's called co-regulation. One of the most beautiful ways you can do to treat trauma, especially generationally. Give them a tool to get those emotions out. So, some takeaways. Trauma is common, friends. It affects both the brain and body. Being aware of your stress responses, it empowers that regulation, it empowers that healing. Tools like the progressive muscle relaxation I just taught you is one step of doing it. There are so many other ways you can do it, but I need you to be gentle and consistent. Because all of this, these are just words if we do not put action behind it. They're just words. Do not let this time go to waste. Okay? Next slide I have for you is some resources. Now I mentioned that book, The Body Keeps Score. That was one of the first ones that came out about trauma. Personally, what I enjoy better is My Grandmother's Hands. Goes into more racial issues that we've seen across the United States and how that's also impact generationally so that we can also be aware of our own culture and privileges. It Didn't Start With You is a beautiful one for generational trauma. It's just a beautiful way to understand that, hey, this isn't something you did wrong, but maybe it was passed down to you. And that doesn't mean your parents necessarily did anything wrong either, because again, how many folks, and I think of our military, when they came back home, how many of them were immediately able to access mental health care? Guys, that wasn't something even when we were in Afghanistan or Iraq. This has been way more recent. So I think of the generations of men and women who had to fight in combat, then come right back home and then live an ordinary life. They were given a disservice. We were given a disservice because then that was passed down to us. That was passed down to us. Some websites here, if you're looking for a therapist, someone that you want to process with. I know a lot of folks will use psychology today, but to be completely honest, a lot of therapists have stopped using psychology today because they're going over to Therapy Den, because Therapy Den has better options for you to really look at, I want someone rather than just trauma, But maybe I want grief trauma. They break it down a little bit better. Because there's been so many issues trying to find therapists, especially those who accept insurance, call your benefits. The back of your insurance card, a lot of Anthem, Aetna, Cigna, United, Connecticut, the ones I've been working with, they now have case managers that they have hired. You can call them and ask them to help you find a therapist. Use that benefit, you're already paying for it. Crisis in the State of Connecticut is 211. Again, that's going to connect you to more of the community-based programs, the larger agencies. I will say this about larger agencies, yes, there is a lot of turnaround with therapists, but in the state of Connecticut, again, one of the beautiful things that we have is every single therapist, especially when they work with children and adolescents and families, when they get hired, they will be trained in a formal trauma model. It's one of the mandates that went in, I want to say, 2017. Access that. It's one of the things that in many states that I've worked in that do not have it. Some modalities, if you want to look into, popular for adults is EMDR, ART. It's just a fancy way of saying that it's going to help regulate that nervous system. TFCBT you're typically going to see for teens, children, young adults, trauma-focused cognitive behavioral therapy. We have something called ARC, attachment, regulation, and competency. That's for really young children. It also works with the caregiver as well. And then there's something called brain spotting. Again, another way to help regulate the nervous system. Or if you want something a little bit more in depth, I have some flyers here if you're interested. Low energy neurofeedback, we can hook sensors up to you. You do not have to do anything. Hook you up for about 4 to 20 seconds. Immediately regulate your nervous system. What I will say about that is that the only insurances covering it right now are Husky and a few Cigna plans I've been able to get covered. If you're interested, I'm up in Summers, I know that's far away. If you go to Oaks Labs, OCHSLABS.com, you can find all the providers in the state of Connecticut. Unfortunately, states like Rhode Island don't have any. It's very popular on the West Coast, UK and Canada. It's been very slow coming this way. All right. I've done a lot of talking. Yes, ma'am?
I have a question. Does physical activity help? Does physical activity help overall, or does it depend on the person? Because I feel like for me, like I get, I don't know if that was the right word, like hyper aroused, and I feel like I can't sit, I can't relax. I'll go clean, I'll cut the grass, I'll just like gotta move and like get it out. I can't like sit still, and I feel like it helps.
It depends on the person, right? The way I look at it, I'm the same way, right? You get me on an interesting day, I will have my whole house cleaned. We will have what I like to call wash the wall parties. My mom taught us that growing up. We're washing the baseboards rather than using a mop on my hands and knees scrubbing. My husband knows not to bother with that, just let the process happen. But I'm getting that excess energy out.
Yeah.
But the key part is when you are doing it, you need to recognize the why. What triggered it, what preceded it, and maybe process through it, because what we don't want to happen is, okay, I'm now scrubbing my baseboards, rather than soothing the nervous system and be processing what happened, or why I'm, say, reactive, instead of not thinking about it and putting all my energy into something. So it's just that fine line, right? We want to work with the brain and body. So I'm not going to tell you no. Just be mindful of your process. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Let me have the mic. I don't know how to ask this question. Can I don't know how to ask this question, but what do you do what would be your answer to a repetitious going back to something over and over when you have felt that you were free from it?
So it depends on the person. It depends on what the activity is, right? If we're talking about, so I work with some folks who maybe their repetition is going back to some substances to help desensitize the brain and body, so it helps them forget, self-medicating. I see with teens cutting, digging their nails into their skin. Because if they can feel pain, that means they're present. It helps go against that dissociative factor, so it depends on what it is. Some of the things that I like to teach, Remember, I always want to look at it as I'm soothing the nervous system. So extreme temperatures, when you catch yourself in the moment wanting to have that urge to go do something that maybe is not the best for your body, you can go outside. One that's actually really good, I didn't mention this one, get a bowl of water, cold water, put some ice cubes in it, dunk your face in it. It's going to create such an immediate temperature change that's going to help redirect you so that you're not hyperfixating or participating in that activity. Another one too, I'll tell folks, you can keep lemon or limes in your house. Cut the wedge, put it in your mouth. Again, such an extreme difference in taste. It's sour, does the same effect as cold temperatures. Now sometimes, right, if something is really extreme, what I'll tell clients is do what you need to. So if you have to dunk your face in an ice bowl of water while having a lemon wedge in your mouth, that's fine, because the more of your five senses you're impacting, the more impact you're going to have on that nervous system. So if you need to do it, you do it. Then comes the process after, so that you can step away and go, okay, well, why? What can I do to continue soothing that nervous system? But again, it all depends on the person, where they're at, and what's going on. We have questions in the back. Yes, ma'am.
I just had a comment from what Nicolle was saying, like when you're like overly like cleaning or you're finding an activity that you're overly doing, and you said we should just stop to think about why we're doing it and things like that. So I just wanted to comment and say, like, sometimes when we're in the moment and we're in that, like, let me just get all of this done so that I could release some of this energy out, sometimes it's hard to stop, but we have to like remind ourselves and remember to slow down for a minute and think about why it is we're actually doing it, like you just said. But it helps to do that, because then we can recognize what's going on and we can give it to the Lord much sooner, rather than hold on to
Absolutely.
it.
Like I have one client, right? Bought a new house, has a bunch of new house projects. It was like a gift to her. She's like, oh, now I don't have to think about all the excessive trauma I've been through. I'm not telling her to stop the projects. I'm not telling her to stop excessively cleaning. What I'm telling her is I need you to recognize when these moments are coming up, whether it be before, during, or after. The why. Because then those are going to be the holes that we're going to find, of the gaps that we need to fill to help heal the body. And then that's where, again, all that work comes in. Absolutely. Any other questions? Oh, way up here.
Disassociation.
What do you think about it?
Is that, I know that it's a real thing, you know, with, like you said, complex trauma. How do you recognize that?
So you gotta remember, by the time someone's usually dissociating and they come to me, they've recognized that they are dissociating. For those of you who don't know, dissociation is this act of essentially the brain and body is shutting down. And it feels very out of worldly, like I'm here, I'm present, but I'm detached from my body. It's that numbing. To be in that level of a place where you don't feel anything, where you don't feel like you're part of your body. So those are when that happens, that's when I'm doing the tools to impact the nervous system. Anything we can do to impact those five senses, we do it. So like when I talk about trauma treatment, friends, this is where I get into fights, and I say fights with insurance companies. You cannot just walk into a room, spew your heart out, and then you're healed. Personally, I believe it's a lifelong process. That doesn't mean there's anything wrong with us. We're just figuring out how to do things differently. We're figuring out how to respond differently. But the more that we can be concise with what we're doing, it's called neuroplasticity, right? I want you to think of our brain has these natural wavelengths of doing things. We're always going to go from A to B. But if tomorrow I decide, okay, I'm going to be a little bit different, I'm going to go to C. It's gonna take some time to redirect it. But what we know now through neuroscience is that it does not matter the age, that saying you can't teach an old dog new tricks is not true. We can path out new pathways of thinking, new brain waves at any point in our life. It just takes consistency in doing it. And one of the easiest ways to do it is just tapping into those 5 senses. The more you can do it, so like that progressive muscle relaxation I taught you today, you can go home and do it, especially if you're a mom, you're a caregiver. Go into a quiet room, maybe dim the lights. I have some clients, I'll say find your favorite room spray, body fragrance, spray it so that you can associate it with a good smell. Get a heavy, cozy blanket, put it on your lap, because again, doing this tool is one thing, but the more of my 5 senses I can impact and do it with, the better, the more receptive the brain's gonna be. And then when we do those things, the more attached we can feel to our body. It's all about that nervous system regulation. And then yes, there are some severe cases where doing all of these holistic things isn't enough. That's where medicinal things can come in. Talk to your doctor, there's many options. But again, it's all about advocating for yourself and doing what's best for you. If something doesn't feel right, there's also options. There's a lot of things we can do. Any other questions? Yes, sir?
Trigger.
Ooh, what do you want to know?
Trigger. How would you encourage a person to deal with triggers? They get over one situation, something new happens, and they bring up the past trigger that you just was freed from.
It's the same way, right? The more, again, this is where, and I think what's hard is we are, and especially in the US, we are conditioned and designed to think medically a certain way. The issue is A, we resolve it with B. We need to break that down. And by breaking it down, I mean we have to look at it as, right, stress and responses, triggers are not a bad thing. Look at it as, right now my body is giving me a stress signal for a reason. I want to connect what that reason is. So for example, I once had a young girl, she was sexually assaulted for years by her dad. And every time she saw a black Jeep, immediately shut down. Dad drove a black Jeep, went to pick her up when he would pick her up for visits. I can't tell her to stay away from all the black Jeeps. It's not possible. But what I can do is give her enough tools for her nervous system so that when this happens, right, she can practice some progressive muscle relaxation, desensitize her body, self-soothe. The more she builds on that, the better she's gonna be. To the point where I am able to say, it didn't bother her anymore when she was able to successfully, continuously do those things. Now, she was doing something, she was doing TFCBT with me, trauma-focused cognitive behavioral therapy. So we were really targeting specific issues, and we do it in a very situational way. But the idea is, we educate, which is what we're doing now. That's part of actually any formal trauma model. You meet with a therapist, we educate. And then it's called relaxation or self-soothing. We help soothe the nervous system. Because triggers are always gonna happen, they're always gonna come up. Like, remember when I said that story when I had dengue fever, I never had to process it? And then we had COVID come in and shut everything down. I was like, well, I can't leave my house. I'm gonna have another near-death experience. I still had to work, I was a frontline worker. I had to go into a clinic. I had a trauma caseload of 117 little kids. I had to soothe the nervous system. And that's what we do. That's it. Any other questions? I think there was one more. Yes, sir? Wait patiently. Thank you.
How do you combat when you're in a room of people and you don't want attention to the point where it's not safe, but you want attention where it's like you're seen, and when you're not seen, you just want to disassociate and isolate. What's happening at that point?
So that's a tough one, right? Because it depends on the person. One thing I did not share with you, I normally share this with folks. I'm gonna share it anyways. I'm autistic. So standing in front of a group of people, making eye contact is one of the worst things for my frontal lobe. My brain's on fire. But why I'm able to do that? Because I've done a lot of work with soothing the nervous system. So if you know you're about to enter a space where there's a lot of people that you might have to socialize with, you might have to come in contact with, you do the skills before you go there. You do something like progressive muscle relaxation. You pop a peppermint mint into your mouth as you're walking in. Maybe you have a little roller ball. You can get them on Amazon for like $7. That's attached to a keychain of essential oil peppermint, so you smell it. It's those reminders of just knowing that you're safe and secure. Because that's what we want to do. It's called, again, micro-regulating. What am I doing to be present and to feel safe? And then maybe if it's really is extreme, you process with a professional or someone else so that you can gain those skills and those tools. Because remember, friends, this is all about building. We're not going to be masters of mental health just because we did 2 rounds of progressive muscle relaxation today. We've got to build on that continuously. This is not easy work. It is not easy taking care of your mental health. Especially when we've had no one before us to model that. We're the first. It starts with us, a lot of us. So think of it as soothing your nervous system. Before, during, and also after. Like me, when I go home after today and I go see my baby girl, I'm gonna change out of these clothes, I might shower. We're gonna dim the lights because I know sensory everything's sensory input. I'm not gonna be able to do bright lights. We're gonna have family time because that's soothing to my nervous system. You do what works for you and you find that. And the only thing I will say that is very frustrating about this process is it's a lot of trial and error. A lot of trial and error because you know what works for my brothers or my mom or my husband isn't necessarily going to work for me. Took a little time. And then what works for me today is probably not going to work for me next year. But that's okay. I give myself grace because I know I am human, which means I grow and I change, but I need to change with that. Any other questions, friends? Ooh, yes, sir, all the way in back. She's getting a workout today. All her steps are coming in. That's fine.
What would you say to a person that deals with systemic traumas?
It's a tough one, right? Because we're living with it.
Yeah,
right
yeah.
now. Boy, I just got goosebumps. This is actually the workshop I held yesterday. One of the things I like to do, especially with my clients, this isn't part of the slides or anything, I'm just going to give you this knowledge. You want to look it up later. There's something called Kohlberg's stages of moral development. Now, Kohlberg did all of his research on white middle-aged men, just like a lot of our science and psychology today. But since 2017 and also going into 2022, things have been changing for the good, even if it doesn't seem like there's some good going on today. But this is where I believe education and empowerment come through. I have a conversation with my dad, who's been doing beautiful work, by the way, with his PTSD and sobriety. And when he was growing up, he's like, you know, Nick, you would turn on the TV, right? At midnight, you would hear the national anthem, it would go off. If you wanted your world news, you got it from Walter Cronkite, and then you got your local news, and that was it. But today we live in a different world, where we're getting news from all over. I bring that up because generationally, we've been experiencing different things. I think of my husband's grandfather, grandmother, my own grandparents, my dad, where it was the norm to drop out of high school at a very young age. And then by the time I made it to high school, what was part of the curriculum was things like, how do you find scientific articles? How do you know if something is fake news or not? I say all this because right now in today's society, we are living in a time and space where many generations did not have access to that privilege. And through lack of education and I think anger and angst, we have a lot of contention today. But that's why it's important for me and the work I do, this is my do something, is educating the community and therapists so we can combat things like systemic issues, systemic trauma. I own and I recognize my privilege being white. So when I get clients that come to me, and it is a systemic issue, I say, you know what? I'll work with you, but I'm also gonna put out referrals to some beautiful Black women that I know who can help you far more than I can. Because there is that recognition too, right? Of knowing where we come from in our space. I say all that because I think the best thing to challenge systemic trauma is education. And one of the things I shared yesterday in the workshop I did, right, because we're talking about nervous system regulation, we're talking about boundaries and communication, how do we combat these conversations that are gonna come up in a lot of homes that are gonna be political, gonna be racial, gonna be homophobic. If you don't have the time or energy to engage those conversations, don't do it. But when it comes to social justice, I will find the time and energy for it. And so for those of you who are in this room and you've been fighting systemic trauma your whole life, and you're feeling burnt out, especially right now in today's society, don't feel like you need to continue educating. You rely on your neighbors, just like I'm telling all the other white therapists to do. We're gonna lean into that privilege, we're gonna educate, we're gonna combat things, because what's going on today is not okay. It's not okay. So we educate, we soothe the nervous system, and we hold on to hope for a better tomorrow. Because things cannot continue this way, friends. So even a lot of the work I do, and a lot of the work, just so you're knowledgeable, a lot of the work that a lot of the therapists I know are doing, they're educating clients to check on simple things, like, are you registered to vote? You'd be shocked how many people think that they're registered to vote and they're not. And we spend time in therapy doing clinical work to do that. Because it all starts here. It all starts here, making that change. Because things need to change. I know it's not the best answer, because there's a lot going on right now. But the best thing that we can do right now is to soothe the nervous system, because there are higher powers that be right now that don't want us to hold on to hope. Because when you don't have hope, you don't have anything. When you don't have hope, it weighs you down, you get sick, you get exhausted, and then guess what? There's no change. And we need change. We absolutely need it. And what I will say, and I'll leave with this, I see a lot of Gen Zers, a lot of young adults. This next generation coming up is fire. They speak out unapologetically. And we need to lean on them and encourage them to continue doing so. Because a lot of us are exhausted doing this work, but we're gonna continue doing it. But soothe your nervous system, friends. We've got a long road ahead of us in the next 3 years. Soothe the nervous system. Yes, sir?
One quick question. The failure to do this, what are the trickle-down effects to your body, to your mind for failure to do this?
Just like we talked about before, epigenetics, right? Not to scare anybody in here, but I kind of want to scare you. If you do not respond now, if you do not treat yourself, if you do not start healing, those DNA codes can start unlocking. We're looking at things like asthma, diabetes, heart disease, cancer. The best gift you can give yourself, the best thing that you can do for yourself, is to heal so that we can avoid those things. But not only that, I think there's a bigger issue at play here, because if we don't heal, what are we modeling for kids around us? Kids are sponges, we know this. We've known this with Erickson, Piaget, these folks who have focused on development since the 1930s. We have known this. But I think a lot of us have chosen to look away, or maybe we didn't have the access to knowing this. So if we don't do it for ourselves, do it for someone else who deserves it. It's not about you guys, I don't know if you knew this, but kids did not ask to be here. Grown-ups in their life are making decisions for them. They did not ask to be here. So the best gift we can give the next generation is a regulated nervous system. And showing them we're doing it different. We're doing it different. And then again, you're gonna save so much money on medical bills. Don't give them any more of your money, the insurance companies, they make enough. I assure you, they make enough. You can look up all what CEOs and CFOs made in bonuses last year. They'll really make you feel disgusted. All right. Yes, sir.
All right.
We'll make this our last one.
Last one.
Last one.
Okay. Praise the Lord, everybody.
Praise the Lord.
You got one, Brother Robert?
Yes,
Go ahead.
praise the Lord, everyone. I just wanted to ask, how do I say with my brother here, we have many triggers, and he always make me feel like I'm walking on eggshells, and there's no way to avoid being around him. How do I handle it where his many triggers doesn't become a trauma for me?
We see this in a lot of families. That's a good one. So again, it depends, right, on the nervous system. I'm gonna circle back to that. We heal the nervous system. I've been in those spaces, right? Before I enter that space where I know that person is gonna be in, maybe I'll do progressive muscle relaxation, I'll do some breathing, hydration. Believe it or not, the hydrated you are, the better, because it releases inflammation of the nervous system. If we have a nervous system that is inflamed, we're gonna have more triggers. So if you know that you're gonna be around him, it's gonna be causing, it's like walking on eggshells. That morning, you start off with some hydration, you put some good protein in your body, because it's gonna take down that inflammation of the nervous system. Maybe do a skill to transition, right? A transition takes a lot of power on the body. What do I mean? So the ability from going from outside into a building as a transition, right? Especially if I know I have to see somebody who I'm walking on eggshells around. I'm gonna have some of that later on tonight. My husband's family. One of them's a former politician. We do not see eye to eye on anything. So after I transition, I shower, right? I'm gonna change my clothes. I'm gonna spend some time with my daughter. I'm gonna really soothe the nervous system. I'm gonna bring my water bottle with me so that if I need to escape into my mother-in-law's bathroom and do some gargling. Another one too, bathrooms are great. Nope, I'm gonna say no one's gonna follow you to the bathroom. If you have a toddler like me, you know they're gonna be following you into the bathroom everywhere. Go into a bathroom, turn on the cold water, and put the cold water on your hands and up onto your forearms and your elbows. We have really sensitive parts, we call them meridian points, where our nerves endings are. I can impact that just to bring it down. Maybe come up with a mantra. I'm gonna do this tonight, I promise you, I'm not lying to you. I'm saying, Nicolle, you're safe and secure. I'm also gonna harness some energy because I know I'm gonna get into a conversation with this man. That I'm gonna need to get into the conversation with this man, shut some things down. I'll be blunt about it. But then when I get home, I'm gonna continue soothing that nervous system. And it all depends, right? Where's my window of tolerance? If I have an optimal window of tolerance, I might feel a little bit uneasy, but I'm gonna have these tools. I have lifesavers in my purse. I have my peppermint oil to get me through the day. But my husband also knows too. We have an agreement with each other, right? It's all part of our partnership. If he sees me getting a little dysregulated, like I'm fidgeting, keep making excuses to go use the bathroom, he knows it is because it's his family, like I would do the same for mine. It's his job to go, you know what? We'll stick around for dinner, but we're leaving after dessert, right before dessert. We got an early day tomorrow. We have a list of mantras and conversation pieces that we agree on before we enter these spaces, because we protect one another. We are a united front.
Yeah.
You protect yourself. So before you enter into these spaces, if you have a partner or spouse you can talk to, have that agreement, that's great. If not, have a plan for yourself. Go, where's my limit? I'm gonna gift myself a limit. I'm not gonna wait until, you know what, I feel just so sick in the stomach being around this person that I need to leave. If you're at work, this is a lot harder, right? So this is where early on when I was working on some agencies, I had to work with some people that really rattled my nervous system. I put a sign outside my door that says, "Session in progress." That doesn't mean I was in a session. I just needed a break. Get creative. You know your life, you know your space way better than I do. You know yourself, you know what you need to heal. You just gotta start planning and act on it. This is a process. This is not, and also too, treatment, guys, is not linear, right? We do not just race to the finish line. There will be bumps in the road. There will be mountains that we have to navigate. That is okay. What matters is how do we react in the end? What do we do for ourselves in the end? So think about some of the tools I did with you today. You can always look up resources, TikTok, Instagram, but also protect yourself too, because it's a little crazy out there. Look up nervous system regulation tools. Use Google for that. But if you need more help, don't be ashamed to reach out to a professional. There's no shame in that. I look at it as empowering, because you're choosing to do something different. Okay. Thank you, guys.
Hey. Let's give God a hand for Nicolle.
Now, how do you take all that you've heard and also know that you're on this side, being this born-again Christian, and then you got this on the side that Nicolle just gave us? Does the two work together?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Does the two work together?
Yes.
Lift your hands if it's yes. Good. So that means that we know that this is good for us to understand, right? How many of y'all got a clear understanding of something today?
Yeah.
Okay, good. And how many of you gonna take action? How many of y'all gonna use that ball?
I got mine.
I ordered peppermint oil on Amazon already.
Good.
I don't play.
I gotta get my lifesavers.
Good. Well, we are indeed glad that you were able to come. And we also are thankful that you were able to down to earth present yourself in a way that everybody could receive you.
All right,
So
thank you.
that's a blessing, right?
Come back again.
And we apologize for the little confusion today. It wasn't intentional.
Something probably didn't want me here, but you.
That's right.
That's the way I redirect.
We know about those things.
Does she have cards?
Do you have cards?
Yes, ma'am. I got cards and I got some flyers up here if you want them.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
And she charges $1,000 an hour. No, this is my first time actually meeting her. But I like her already. So we thank God for you, and we praise God that you actually accepted the invitation. And also, now we know that you did an excellent job presenting to us. And I'm sure somebody's getting some solutions here right now. Well, you already know somebody in order to have a
We need to get them on little keychains.
I gotta get that.
A Christmas present, everyone. You regulate everyone's nervous system this holiday season, okay?
I hope you got this part though. She just ended with telling you what can happen if you don't handle your stress and your trauma.
Amen.
She also said that trauma and stress are the words can be interchangeable. So you really want to listen to what's been said so that you can take action, because you can prevent certain diseases and sicknesses from coming into your body if you handle the stress. Yes?
Amen.
And so she let you know that as well. So thank you so much for listening to us. And if you like a refreshment or something,
I'd love to say yes, but I got a toddler. I gotta go relieve from my husband. He's gotta go to work now.
okay.